Hello guys, welcome to Attack on Titan episode 52, or season 3 episode 15? Or season 3 part 2 episode 3. What am I gonna title this video? This episode covers chapters 77 and 78, and shares the title with chapter 78, Descent, which, makes sense, given what happens in the episode. But personally, I was more of a fan of the chapter 77's title, it was The World They Saw, okay? I remember reading that title and being like, dude, it's just immediately I was like, oh, this is gonna be crazy. Anyway, that title is pretty self-explanatory, as the first half of this episode is focused on the point of view of the warriors. So during the production of season 2, the anime staff quickly realized that they didn't have enough content for the full 12 episodes, and therefore they had to create original scenes. They had to add original content into a couple of episodes. One of these was the extended, childhood flashback in episode 33 or something. With Hannes and Eren and the main trio. Another one was the infamous Ymir flashback. And speaking of her, by the way, we finally talk about her. Oh my god, what's happening there? More on that later. But more relevant right now is the fact that they added a very brief scene with Reiner remembering Marco's death. This wasn't in the original, release of the manga. Actually, I think this one was made because the anime staff wanted to understand why Reiner was, freaking out. But whatever, man. The interesting thing here is that Isayama collaborated with the anime staff very closely. And, did, a couple of sketches, storyboards himself. And all of this, while he was still working on the manga, right? Do you want to know which arc he was working on? The one you're watching right now. Isayama decided to rework these new scenes he made into the manga, and this is why this flashback is, happening right here, right now. He came fresh off the season 2 production, and he just felt like he could have added the scenes right here. But yeah, in the anime side of things, we've seen this before, not just in season 2, by the way. They also added, a little bit more of clips into the Lost Girls Annie OVA. If I remember, this wasn't in the manga version of that story, and I'm assuming it's not in the visual novel as well. Anyway, the episode starts with a bunch of reused shots from season 1, and when we switch to Reiner and Bertholdt, if we look into the manga panel, we can see and we can compare that they actually cut a little bit, of the part where you can see Marco just being sneaky, climbing the roof. The anime just decided to reveal Marco when he actually speaks. But yeah, Marco listens to their conversation and and tries to run away, and he starts piecing everything together. Unfortunately, Reiner knows that this guy is smart, and this is why he goes in and attacks him. Now, in the manga, Reiner attacks Marco mid-air, but in the anime, Marco just stops in a random rooftop for some reason. So yeah, Reiner is now holding Marco, and while the Titan is slowly approaching them, Annie quickly arrives, and she's like, yo, what the fuck are you doing? Reiner tells her what's going on, and this is what I've noticed where, the anime changed something from the manga, or at the very least, the official translation of the manga. And here's what's going on. In the manga, you have Annie calling Reiner and Bertholdt assholes. But in the anime, she calls Marco an asshole. Which makes way more sense given his reaction. If there's one thing that I've learned in this arc specifically, is that even the official translation cannot be trusted, right? Not fully, not blindly, okay? And even in this episode, there is another, manga, page where the official translation is a complete fuck up. So more on that later. Anyway, Reiner tells her to remove Marco's 3DM gear, something that she initially refuses. The anime also like cuts a little bit of dialogue where she tells Reiner to get Bertholdt to do it because since it's their fault. But Reiner manipulates her by talking about how she didn't have to risk her life to save Coney. This is from a scene like way back in season 1, and like he's also insinuating that she's starting to feel compassionate for this evil race. We are dealing with racial shit. Is Attack on Titan like just an analogy for Trump's America? When we built the walls and now the Mexicans are coming in and killing us. The people inside the walls are an evil race, and this is why they need to die. Is that what's going on? What's really weird here is how Reiner tells Annie to prove herself. Now, I get the idea of proving that you're not compassionate towards your enemy. I get that. But that's not what's going on here. Reiner wants her to prove that she and her father aren't like this filthy race, that they are different. But you're all from outside the walls, right? So your race should be different, right? The only thing that's, gonna, prove what race she is from, is either the color of her skin, and if that doesn't work, it's gonna be a blood test. But for real, like, this scene is very important, alright? There's a lot going on here, and you should be thinking about the implications of this dialogue. This is what makes Annie act, and she starts taking Marco's gear off. And while she's doing that, Reiner tells her that they are warriors, which is, what Bertholdt called Reiner back in season 2, and that's when he switched his personality. More on this a little bit later. And Marco then like recontextualizes like an early scene from season 1. But yeah, Annie takes off Marco's gear and she throws it inside this building. It's a building that she later comes back to get Marco's gear and use it for the inspection when the people were looking for the spy that kills Sony and Bean. I talked about this whole situation in another video, and I highly recommend you to watch it. So they leave a defenseless Marco behind, and the Titan shows up and starts eating him. Now, some of you might be thinking, this Titan kind of looks familiar. Well, that's because Isayama like drew this guy based on Araki, not the JoJo guy, the anime director, Tetsuno Araki, I think that's his name. And maybe, that's because this guy was the one that asked Isayama to do this scene, right? Like, he was technically the one that initiated the creation of Marco's death. He's the one that really killed Marco. I'm just being dumb here, but this marks an era where Isayama is gonna start doing like public figures. Because before it was like personal friends, people that they met. I know at one point like he did like a fan as a Titan, but now like it's gonna be people that we can just very easily Google. But now that we are seeing this, there's still one question left, and it's, why did this Titan like just only eat half of Marco? Why did it stop? It's not like someone attacked this Titan midway and then he dropped Marco. Like, it's weird, right? What's interesting too is how the warriors are affected by this death. You have Bertholdt tearing up, and then you have Annie crying, which is funny because later on Annie's totally fine with killing Jean. And then you have Reiner, who switches back into his soldier personality. His guilt is so massive that this is the only thing that he can do, to cope with his sins. In the next scene, we have the warriors, and oh, I can finally say it. It's Zeke. I can finally say it. Finally, man. It's been really hard now talking to my friends, and I'm just like trying not to say his name, but now I can. It's Zeke, and yeah, man, they're having a drink. It's presumably coffee, but then again, it's not like they drop the name. The start of this conversation is interesting because it essentially picks off from where, from what Reiner and Bertholdt know about Annie's situation, because they don't know a whole lot. They weren't there in Stohess. I think it's Stohess. They don't know for sure that the Survey Corps like figured out that Annie was a female Titan and that she got captured and she's crystallized. They don't know anything. So when Armin back in the last season was like, "Hey man, we're torturing her," this is where they finally start piecing together. Like maybe they found her out. I just want to give you a warning, if you watched the season 2 dub, they messed up the dialogue there. I remember, like, Reiner, you know, when he was still pretending to be a good guy, he was like, oh my god, Annie, the female Titan. Like, he talks about Annie being the female Titan, even though he should not know. He should not know. Like Annie, like there's like a scene with Sasha that they added in the anime, and they're talking about Annie being the female Titan, and Sasha's like, what's going on? Because she doesn't know. Like, every that was a suspect that was not present in the Stohas, you know, battle. They were suspects. They were not told the information about Annie, and you know, like, they don't know anything. And Reiner and Bertholdt, they don't know. They still don't know. And now we have this episode where they are figuring it out. But yeah, like, the season 2 dub, it was bad, and the script was really bad, and they messed up in a lot of ways. Having said that, Zeke is reassuring these boys that Annie is probably fine, because as far as he knows, like, these guys probably don't know a whole lot about how to properly capture a shifter, right? You know, in last season we had Reiner and Bertholdt, like, cutting Eren's legs, you know, and he couldn't transform. He had to, you know, they have to heal themselves first. Similarly, this is what they have to do. But Zeke is, like, working on the assumption they don't know anything. They're dumb, and Annie's, like, really capable. She's probably, you know, training. But I don't think it's not like Zeke really cares. He just wants them, you know, to calm down. Reiner and Bertholdt, though, are still worried about her, and Beast then assumes that it's like, oh, you're not totally committed, and then it reminds them of, you know, like, the fight that they had in season 3 part 1. You know, like, we didn't see a whole lot, unfortunately, but you know, that fight was about, you know, whether they should save Annie or not, and Reiner lost, and Zeke is like, hey man, you lost, we're not gonna save her now, but if you're willing to fight again, let me remind you, you're going to have to give that armor to another warrior. He says something like that. You know what that means, right? He's gonna get Reiner eaten by another person. Zeke then reminds them that they have one goal: to regain the coordinate that, you know, that Eren has, and stop this cursed history. So let's just end this. Notice how, like, he sounds like tired when he says that, and more importantly, notice how, like, the camera, quote unquote, like focuses on his reaction when Bertholdt is expressing how, like, they don't need to put more people through this hell. Just something to think about. Like Eren suspected in the last episode, the backpack Titan, the luggage Titan, this guy saw them approaching Maria, and this is how, like, the warriors all hid themselves on time before the Silver Court arrived in Shiganshina, and how the coffee got cold. Unfortunately for Zeke, it wasn't in an instant. We then have a very nice scene with Reiner, like, encouraging Bertholdt. It was, you know, a little meek and timid before this, and you know, tease him a little bit of Annie too, which is also important. And they mention how they made a promise to Ymir, and this is where you should be asking, hold on, what's going on? It really looks like she clearly is not in there with them. She was not drinking coffee with them. She's not scouting. Where is Ymir? I don't know, man. But for some reason, they had to make a promise with her about how they were going to save Krista. No, because they don't know. They still don't call her Astoria. I love Astoria way more. Fuck Krista, okay? But yeah, man. Is if Ymir's like if she's making a promise with them, that means that Ymir's not there to save Historia herself. Anyway, they then do that awkward fucking move that they do in the opening, but the camera is actually like pulled back a little bit. Like, they don't show the actual panel in the manga or the thing in the opening, and I think that's for the better. Like, it makes this thing look a little bit less awkward. We then cut back to the present with Bertholdt, you know, being somewhere with a bunch of holes. Just like the first episode, you know, where there was a shot with him. And he's apparently waiting for Reiner to send a signal. And speaking of him, we move on to the next scene where we have the aftermath of the attack on Reiner. And, you know, his head is gone. And the nobodies start celebrating. No, characters don't matter. But the actual characters that matter are feeling a little bit more conflicted. You know, we have like Connie and Sasha crying. Jean is like scolding them, but he's also tearing up. Eren doesn't say anything, but he's like just shocked. He's like, yo, did it. You know, Mikasa just sighs in relief, but then she notices Armin, and he's like a bit shaken up by this, and he talks about how like they didn't have time to negotiate. They couldn't negotiate because they're so weak. Like they are weak. And they don't have, and they are the ones that lack information. You know, to do anything. They don't have the means to restrain a shifter. The only thing that they can do is just kill them. That's the only thing that the people in the walls can do. Unfortunately, there's no means of negotiating. But you didn't kill Reiner, okay? Because he starts screaming, and this is the signal that Bertholdt was waiting for, right? And he was inside the barrel the whole time. You know, the whole time it was inside that barrel that the luggage Titan was carrying. Yeah, like again, like there was a shot with Bertholdt with those holes back in the first episode of this part, and then you have the second episode with Armin questioning like, hey man, what is this Titan carrying? I wonder why. And the camera's like has a close up. There was holes in that barrel. Like this is the show where you need to pay attention to everything. I don't know what to tell you. You cannot turn off your brain. Like the clues are all there. Like you can start making connections about a lot of things. I'm just saying. Anyway, basically, it's a bomb that's inside that barrel. As you know, the Beast Titan grabs it and throws it. And by the way, shouts out to reused animation because I immediately noticed that. But yeah, Bertholdt was supposed to blow up right then and there, but he didn't. He didn't because somehow those holes maybe are too big. I don't know. He's somehow in the middle of that. Like he notices Reiner and he gets out of there and goes up to him. And this is where we have more conscious transferring bullshit, which, you know, like I've never liked this plot line. I think a lot of people don't like this, but it was controversial in the manga, and I understand that people don't like this. You know, I'm not, but yeah, like I never liked this, never was a fan of this, but yeah, man, the Reiner is the plot armored Titan. Also, like another quick thing is how like Armin immediately notices like the barrel flying. He's like, "Oh yeah, that's Bertholdt, guys. Let's get out of here because he's going to explode." Now, in season 1, Bertholdt didn't explode. Like he can't just show up and not cause like a big explosion. In season 2, there was an explosion, but it was not when he transformed. They show footage of this. It's when he was falling. So these explosions are a combination of like, you know, how hot he is, and the steam that he always has, but also the drop. Having said that, I never felt like the explosion in season 2 was like super crazy or anything. So I don't know. Like, I feel like it was kind of like people start reacting as if it's going to be a nuclear bomb, and then it is. But I don't know. I never felt like that. Felt like the thing that happened in season 2 was like enough for me to be like, oh, dude, gotta run away. And again, it's not like they know what a nuclear bomb is, but yeah. But yeah, that's how they know that Bertholdt's gonna do some explosive shit. But with Bertholdt not transforming, this is the perfect opportunity to attack him, right? And this is where Armin instead goes up to Bertholdt alone and tries to talk to him. Now, Bertholdt assumes that all that Armin is trying to do is just, you know, buying some time. And to be fair, that is also part of the plan, for sure. Armin doesn't deny this. But like we saw before with Reiner, like Armin was like, yo man, we didn't have time to negotiate. And I think this is important. Whatever Bertholdt is saying, he's not wrong, but there's more to it. Like Armin genuinely wants to talk with people. Gone are the days where he was, you know, a little psychopath, you know. And the anime removed, you know, scenes here and there where Armin looked a little creepy or whatever. But yeah, like my main point is that like ever since like he killed that girl in the uprising, Armin is like mellowed out a lot, you know, and he's willing to talk to people. He wants to, you know, reach an understanding. Unfortunately, Bertholdt is beyond, you know, talking. You know, he doesn't care. To him, you know, and combining with what we know now, like if it is this whole race stuff, like if the people inside the walls are this evil race, Bertholdt is just like, yo man, like you just need to die. That's it. Like Bertholdt himself, by the way, like he talks about how you're my precious comrades. I love you guys. I was crying back in season 2. You know, if you remember, amazing scene. Bertholdt's voice actor is like really amazing, by the way. Like he really has like a crazy performance in that episode and in this episode. But yeah, like he mentions that scene, I was like crying, begging for forgiveness, you know, acting all weak. You know, and Bertholdt's like, "Oh, that was weak." I'm like, "I'm cool, Bertholdt now, bro. I'm changed." Also, that is the scene I was talking about, like where the English translation, it was like 1 or 2 pages where it was just like complete fuck up, just complete mess. Where the translation like is like implying that Bertholdt for some reason is talking about Armin. No, just no. Like if you go to the store and buy this volume, you're gonna have this fucked up page. This is bad. This is real bad. They fucked up royally. Royal blood, no, bad. It's not even good. But yeah, like they messed up. They messed up, and this is something that you're buying. Yikes! That's a yikes. And it's not the end. There's another fuck up. It's more complicated than just English translation bad. But yeah, there's another fuck up towards the end of this season. like it might be the last episode, and it's like one of the biggest mistakes ever. But yeah, like that's not the topic for this. All that I wanted to say is Bertholdt, he doesn't hate the people inside the walls. He likes a lot of his friends there, his comrades, but they just need to die, and that's it. They just need to die because they're an evil race, a filthy race, or something. I don't know. Because, like you said, you have done nothing wrong. You've really done nothing wrong, but that's it. You just need to die. And Armin is like, oh, it's because you're a spawn of the devil, which like, by the way, it was like that was what Bertholdt called Armin and everyone else when like Armin started manipulating Bertholdt, talking about Annie, how she's being tortured, and Bertholdt got really angry. This was the first glimpse we saw like angry Bertholdt. Remember that that spawn of devil stuff. There's more to that. When Bertholdt finished talking, Mikasa decides to do a season 2 on Bertholdt, and because she decides to do a season 2, she doesn't actually kill him. This time it's not Mikasa hesitating. Bertholdt actually defends himself. Like Bertholdt's just like, dude, like maybe he has like Titan sense now. Maybe that is another ability that Titans have that we don't know. Another bullshit ability. Maybe, I don't know. But Bertholdt is like fighting her, and it's so cool. It's so cool. I really like how she cuts his ear, and once again, it's because of Mikasa that these guys are transforming into Titans. Like she injures Bertholdt again. It's what happened in season 2. It's why Bertholdt transformed into a Titan. This is again what's going on, and also I really like how Bertholdt just kicks her. I think it's cool, and Mikasa throws a sword. Awesome. Cool scene, really short scene, but I really appreciate that. I really like that. Shots out of that. Awesome. Then Bertholdt runs away. Mikasa, tries to hold Armin off. And this is where we get one of the most important scenes, I think. Just animation is so good. But for Bertholdt's character, like it's not really a character arc, right? Like he was just like timid and calm the whole time, and really submissive, a submissive character. That's what he is. I think there's something to Zeke's dialogue where they are like, "Hey man, Reiner, like you fucked up. Like if we can fight again, but like if you lose, I'm gonna feed you to someone else." That's the implication. Like these guys have fucked up. They've not accomplished a whole lot. Like they've destroyed Wall Maria. But now
Survey Corps
they're back here stronger, ready to take Wall Maria back. That's number 1. Number 2, they didn't get the coordinates. They lost Marcel, the 4th guy that was with them, and Ymir, got her, that boy's powers. She became a Titan, a shifter because of this Marcel, because she ate him. Sorry, and then they lost Annie. Like they are continuously fucking everything up, and Bertholdt's like, yeah, like this is bad. This is bad, and we need to do something. Shots out to the last thing that he says in this episode, which is he talks about how the world is cruel. This is one of the biggest Attack on Titan like themes, so right, like something that like a lot of characters have talked about, like primarily Mikasa. God damn, my English accent, like for some reason, like I say Mikasa like wrong, but yeah, Mikasa like is the one that like made this quote like the iconic quote, like the world is cruel but also beautiful. But that's her perspective. That's the thing. Like throughout the entire show, you're gonna have like people talking about how cruel the world is, and because of that, like what's their response to Mikasa? It's beautiful too, and it's that beauty that's we're fighting for. For Eren, it's more like it's something along the lines of like the world is cruel, and so you have to be cruel yourself. You have to fight back. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, man. Fuck it, just fight. This is an anime only scene that's not in the manga, but I don't think it's like completely wrong. I don't think it's completely wrong. It makes Eren look like a little bit like a psychopath, but you know, I've hated the season 1 finale more years ago. Now I don't hate it that much. In terms of like comparison with the manga, by the way, like it's not a bad episode, but yeah. But Bertholdt's perspective is that the world is cruel and that's it. There's nothing you can do to change it. You just ride or die, right? You're a part of the world. You gotta flow. You gotta do whatever you have to do, and it's nobody's fault, you know, if you do cruel things, because that's the way the world is. And now I'm gonna do something cruel. Kaboom. Well, there's an animator that was contracted, and you know, like I saw the news, like, oh, this guy's an expert in explosions. I was like, oh shit, it's gonna be for this scene. But apparently, this guy didn't do this scene. So now I'm confused. But yeah, like I remember seeing this news and like, should I send this to my friends? Should I not? Like, it's gonna give out that it's gonna do an explosion. An explosion Attack on Titan, kind of rare. Or big explosions anyway. Hanji and also Moblets, they were among the people that were close to Bertholdt's big boy explosion. So that looks like they're dead, you know. But in the last moments, you can see Moblet for some reason is like going towards Hanji. But yeah, this is the Colossal nuclear bomb, the bird bomb. It just destroyed Shingishina. Not completely, but yeah, man, that is bad. He's doing it bad, and now he's like using the heat of his body like to burn like all the buildings, and he's throwing buildings, and it's cool, except the fact that once again it's CG Colossal Titan, and dude, look, I know, like I was in the subreddit. I was seeing people just being defensive over this, but look, man, listen. My point of view is I don't really care that the anime staff is, you know, doing all these side projects and stuff. Like I understand, but like the knowledge of that is not gonna make what I'm seeing on screen any better. You know, it's not like it's a huge clash of. There's like a shot with Erwin, and it's like oh man, it's not good. Like it looks so clearly photoshopped in, not literally, but it just doesn't look like it belongs in the world, in the setting, with Erwin there, with the environment there. This CG, this 3D monster over here, it looks like it was taken straight from the goddamn game that I played a couple days ago. Okay, like it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good, unfortunately. It clashes, and man, for all the shit that I'm giving One Punch Man season 2, like in a recent episode, they had like this CGI monster, and it looked pretty fine. Like it actually looked like it belonged there. It looked 3D, but I don't know. Like this Bertholdt is like, oh, this clearly doesn't belong here. So that's a yikes. That's a yikes, and I'm like thinking of like, oh man, there's like amazing scenes later on, and it's gonna be this goddamn ugly thing. In an era where the manga keeps on looking better, you know, even in this episode, there is a couple of panels that I remember where like I feel like the manga just had more stuff going on. Like there's more expression, there's more detail. I don't know, there's more emotion, and the anime kind of just kind of like, I don't know, makes it more basic. I'm being a little bit negative. I like the anime a lot. Like the soundtrack, the soundtrack, man, was so good. You know, shouts out. You see, Big Boy. It's actually called Appleseed, you know, the remix of You See Big Girl when Bertholdt transforms. That was dope. That was cool. There's people that are probably going to, you know, complain about, you know, remixes, and it's not a whole lot of new songs playing, and you're not that wrong. But I like what I heard, what I was hearing. You know, I thought it was cool. Even more about the 3D stuff. Like Attack on Titan is an anime that uses a lot of 3D and CG stuff, and it's fine. But you know, like even in this episode, there's like a shots that kind of look not that bad. It was not great either. And I feel like, you know, it was the shot where there's like Levi and all these buildings, and zooms in into Bertholdt in the barrel. The idea of the shot was interesting. It's not in the manga, and I thought it was cool. But I don't know. Like I feel like season 2 had so much polish, and this season doesn't. And then I would like to say season 1 but then you have the fans that are gonna be like, oh, but well, the TV version was bad. Okay, but like the Blu-ray version of season 1 was good, right? And that's the thing. Season 3's Blu-rays were not fixed at all. Like, it was like barely anything substantial. You know, the season 1 Blu-ray was like, oh man. And this is the thing. Wit Studio is so busy working on other things now, and it shows that they just can't have the same level of polish, the same level of quality. You know, not from the season 3, and not the best parts of season 1. Season 2, fuck, I'm just confusing myself. Not the best parts of season 2, not season 2, and the best part of season 1. That's what I wanted to say. This is fucking yikes. I forgot to mention this, but like, in this episode alone, there's been like a huge like increase in Armin and Mikasa's interactions. You know, there's like a lot of touching, a lot of like dialogue. You know, for the people that, you know, like just think that Mikasa is just, you know, just Eren. You know, you have a lot of, you know, a reminder that Mikasa, she likes Armin. You know, like they are friends, and I don't know. I think that's interesting. Another thing about Armin is how there's definitely like this pressure in the story of everyone just trusting his opinions even more, and everyone's like pressuring him to like, hey, come up with a strategy. You know, like you have Erwin and Hanji, and now his friends are just like, hey man, Armin, like tell me what to do. Like there's the story is not really pushing on Armin's like commanding people, right? Like he's like giving orders and thinking, and he's a strategist, and but like as this episode ends, Armin's like scared, right? He's not saying anything. There's no like, oh, I know what to do because I'm smart. No, he's what's happening, Armin? You don't have a plan? Overall, I think it's very interesting to, as a manga reader, to go back to these episodes now and really understand what's going on in the minds of the warrior characters. You know, when Bertholdt is talking about how the people inside the walls didn't do anything wrong, but he has to kill them anyway, even though he likes them. I remember being kind of dismissive, being like, Bertholdt's just being an asshole, being unreasonable. But now I understand. I'm not saying that I agree, but I know what's going on. And when I see Zeke's close up, when Bertholdt talks about like how they don't need to put more people through this hell, and Zeke looks at him, and the camera focuses on this reaction. I know what's going on with Zeke too, finally. Recently, by the way. It's recent. Like, now I really know what's going on with Zeke. And even that, there's more meaning in that shot than I could have initially foreseen. And that is interesting. I like this episode more than the last one. I think the last one, it was good, but the soundtrack placement and the directing and just, I don't know, it just lacked impact. The scenes were there. It was not even bad animation, but it was just like, This one had a lot more in it, you know, anime only, so you need to pay attention to what's going on, and, you know, impactful. Literally, there was an explosion. Goddamn, guys, that's as impactful as you can get. Having said that, there's also, like, I forgot to mention, even though this episode's chapter 77 and 78, and they didn't cut anything like scenes. They didn't cut scenes. A little bit dialogue here and there, but they also added a little bit of chapter 79, like the beginning parts. So I'm like wondering, hey man, I remember there was like a funny Coney joke. Did you remove the funny Coney joke? I like that joke. I thought it was funny. Did you remove that? I don't like that. I'm very upset. I'm very fucking upset. But yeah, man, that's it. You know, like I don't have anything else to say. I was rambling at this point. I usually like to do scripted stuff, but I don't have the time. So this is what you have. And I'll see you later. Ew! Ooh!